The Roman Empire despised Christianity and the teachings of Christ because it was a threat to their divine power here on earth. Christians were actively persecuted and fed to lions by the Romans. Even the Jewish elite of the time sought to eliminate this growing threat to their power. Why were Jesus and his teachings a threat? If you look at what Jesus said and did, he sought to free the individual from the collective oppression of the earth. He spoke truth to authority from an early age when he spoke at the temple, challenging the Pharisees about the Sabbath. He taught that we are all brothers and sisters and that we should not be divided. He cared for individuals that were outcasts, such as prostitutes, tax collectors, and lepers. No one was below him. He exposed the oppression of man and the salvation of God. He challenged authority, social pressure, and control by speaking logic like, "He who is without sin should cast the first stone." He promoted loving one another, which stands in stark contrast to the world of divide and conquer. He challenged people not to be manipulated by chasing after wealth. He promoted nonviolence and noncompliance. He taught the abundance mentality with the mustard seed and the loaves and fishes parable. He showed how the meek shall inherit the earth and be separated from the weeds that grow around us. He taught patience and logic over emotional responses. He preached that we are all special and have a purpose in the most powerful God. He taught that everything is in God's hands, and most of all, never, ever fear. All of this and much more shows in words and actions that Jesus was a true rebel of his time. This revolutionary thought resonated with people that were beaten down in that day. No longer did people need to worry about their social, political, or religious status. They could now live their lives knowing that God is on their side. The ruling elite of the time did not know how to deal with this kind of thought and tried many times to trap Jesus and persecute him. Jesus on several occasions saw through these tricks and applied logic to the situation. One of the most famous attempts to trap Jesus was to ask about paying taxes to the Romans. Mark chapter 12 verse 13. Later the leaders sent some Pharisees and supporters of Herod to trap Jesus into saying something for which he could be arrested. "Teacher," they said, "we know how honest you are. You are impartial and don't play favorites. You teach the way of God truthfully. Now tell us, is it right to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Should we pay them or shouldn't we?" Jesus saw through their hypocrisy and said, "Why are you trying to trap me? Show me a Roman coin and I'll tell you." When they handed it to him, he asked, "Whose picture and title are stamped on it?" "Caesar's," they replied. "Well then," Jesus said, "give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give to God what belongs to God." His reply completely amazed them. Jesus used logic over and over again to free the individual from collective oppression of the time. For many years, Jesus' word resonated, and the rulers of the day plotted to kill Jesus. Despite the revolutionary thought that resonated throughout the lands, Jesus always remained peaceful and showed love. If you think about the only time Jesus got angry, it was dealing with the money changers at the temple. Every Passover, every male Jew had to go to the temple and pay the temple tax to the Jewish leaders. This shekel was minted by the Jews and was a half ounce of pure silver. While Jesus showed that taxes ought to be paid, he got furious at what was going on at the temple. Matthew chapter 21. Jesus entered the temple and began to drive out all the people buying and selling animals for sacrifice. He knocked over the tables of the money changers and the chairs of those selling doves. He said to them, "The scriptures declare my temple will be called a house of prayer, but you have turned it into a den of thieves." What had really angered Jesus was not so much the temple tax, but the money changers stealing from the people. Since these money changers minted their own half-ounce silver shekel, they then manipulated the exchange rate to get the shekel. They did this often by charging much more in silver foreign coins than what was in the half-ounce silver shekel, or more commonly, not giving a fair value in animals that were sold to the money changers for that half-ounce silver shekel. Now, not only was Jesus a threat against the political and religious powers of the day, he was now actively challenging the financial power which was the root of all earthly power over man.